Hello everyone, and welcome to my first ever 2023 bullet journal video. This year I'm using a Archer and Olive 160 page dot grid notebook. Here I'm just creating a little pocket and decorating that pocket in a sort of scrapbook pile. You can see on the right I have pasted in a bit of a 2023 montage that's kind of dedicated to traveling and all things sort of vintage in that way. I also want to apologize for the different lighting in this video. It's my first ever video, so I'm still trying to figure out what my setup is going to be and yeah, all of those details. But I really appreciate you watching. If you've set up your 2023 bullet journal, I'd love to know what your overall theme is, if you have one. So feel free to put those in the comments. Moving on to my future log, I am just setting up a basic year at a glance here, continuing with that scrapbooking style. So I'm using some of this dotted paper that I have to make headers, and I'm using those Tombow dual brush pens. This is in the color black, and I am writing the headers, and I'm gonna paste those on at the top. I'm trying my best to do some sort of script here, but my handwriting isn't really the best. One thing that you'll learn about me is I'm not one of those aesthetic girlies. I'm really just trying to show you a realistic way that you could incorporate a bullet journal in your life and maybe not feel so intimidated. Now, I won't make you watch this whole thing. I do speed it up a lot here, but I'm just going through and setting up each of the monthly calendars, and I did do this by hand. If you have any recommendations for stamps that exist, I know that they're out there. I just haven't found a specific brand that I like for setting these different months up, but that's what I'm doing right here. And then on the left column, I haven't filled in yet, but we'll fill in at the end, is actually the weeks. I haven't ever tried using that before, but I wanted to try it out this year to see if knowing which specific week of the year I was in would help me out at all as far as keeping track and keeping me accountable of my goals. Again, I'm adding my future log header here at the top, and I'm adding in all of my months. This was kind of painful, not gonna lie. My hand did cramp up a couple times, but one tip I do have for you, and I can't remember where I saw this. I didn't really make any mistakes this time when I was setting around my future log, and I think it was because you can kind of see there in pencil I marked on the first and the last days of the week, so that way I didn't add in an extra day, in the case of February, several days, and I was able to just put in the correct number of days for each month. So if you find that you often mess up those monthly spreads, maybe try that, because that helped me out a lot. And here I'm just taking another Tombow dual brush pen, and I'm kind of trying to create some, differences to break up those. I put these lines here at the bottom to kind of, write down notes for the month, or, whatever little bits I want to add. It's kind of a small space, but I'm really just trying to add some more color back to this page. And then here you can see I'm adding in those weekly numbers. The next spread that I'm working on, a little fast forward there, is a quarterly goal page. Again, I'm using this sort of scrapbook style to add in those headers. And for me, I really like to break up my year into quarters. It doesn't work up for everybody, but if you haven't done it before, I recommend trying it. If you have a lot of things that you want to do in a year, it might help you to separate them by 3-month intervals, because there's some things you can do in certain months and some things you can't, but this really provides a sort of overview in 4 parts, if you will, of all of the things you can get done at a certain 3-month period. So I'm just setting this page up right now, and I will be doing more of a scrapbook style, coming back in with some details at the end. I'm going back in here with that same Tombow dual brush pen from the future log to kind of create these tabs and that kind of stick with the color palette that I'm going with, a bit more antique, excuse me, scrapbooking style. So I'm taking that to the left side of each quarter to kind of create like a tab, if you will. And this is my first time using the Tombow brush pens, and I'm really enjoying them, but I'm just trying to get the hang of how they work and how hard to press. So that's why you see it looks maybe a little bit messy for some people, but I kind of like that overlay of putting it over top. And then this pen, to be honest, it's nothing special. It's just one of those Pilot G2 in the 07 point size, and I swear by these pens. I've used them forever. They're kind of a luxury, I feel like, for me. In college I just usually used to use the Bic, but these they do have a bit of a smearing depending on the paper that you're using. But in this instance, I found that I was writing out my certain headers and my subheaders, and I didn't have any problems at all. They don't bleed through this paper, which I really enjoy. Having that sort of ghosting on the other side of the paper. I mean, it's not the end of the world, first world problems, but I really enjoy that they don't show through on the other side, but they still stand out on the page. Here I'm kind of framing in my quarters with the other side of the Tombow dual brush pen, and trying to create almost like if these were pasted in these little areas, and then I'll be going in and adding some other details as well. I got a lot of my decorations from either Amazon, if you've searched up before, some junk journaling or scrapbooking packs. They usually come in like 150 pieces, and I using that to decorate. This spread that I'm working on now is a little bit of a when did I last situation, and I'm not sure about you, but I find often that I can never remember when did I last deep clean my bathroom or clean my trash cans. So this is one of those things. It has many parts. It's broken up into daily, weekly/bi-weekly, monthly, and quarterly areas where I have certain tasks. That way I don't have to write them down every week, especially for the, make my bed and a 10-minute tidy. And that way I can keep track of every time I do it. So the idea is I have the first either day of that week or every other week in the sense of the bi-weekly. And when I, clean the bathroom, for example, I just go in with my little marker and I just kind of highlight the date or the week that I did the thing. And then that way when I can come back to this and I can say, oh, okay, well, I definitely haven't done that in a while. Hopefully I don't get to that point, but I can say, oh, I'm past due for, laundering my bedding, for example. Or in the monthly sense, like I haven't cleaned out my car and done a really good, vacuum, for example. So That's the goal with this, is to just really hold myself accountable and making sure that in this instance it's keeping things tidy, but you could probably use this for anything that you want to do on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. I really love this shade of the Tombow that I'm using to break up my different subheads. It's I really like the way that it looks kind of like an antique sort of marker or something that's like faded over time. And then I'm just going in with the other side of that to write in those titles. This page is kind of dense looking, but in that it's just a lot of words and numbers, but it's not supposed to be pretty in my mind. It's really just supposed to keep track of things. This is just your friendly reminder that not everything has to look aesthetic, and sometimes some things just have to be useful, and that's all. They don't have to be pretty. And in this instance, I really was just trying to think of a clear way to keep track of all of my chores, and maybe somebody could have figured out a way to make it look beautiful and nice, but for me, I was really just trying to get information on the page that could be easily understood and adapted. If you have this spread in your 2023 setup, let me know how you went about doing it. Are you using it for cleaning, or are you using it for something else? I'd really love to know how you're using your when did I last or routine builder setup. In the part below, I'm adding a makeshift envelope that, to be honest, I'm not sure if I'll be able to use. I tried to follow a tutorial, and I thought it would be a good idea to be able to add like maybe movie tickets, or yeah, maybe a little note to myself, or something that I can save and maybe come back to later. So I'm just taping that in and then pressing down on that to make sure that it sticks and it stays in there. As you can see, I'm kind of opening it to show you here that I'm not pasting that and that opening down. I'm just kind of leaving that open. These next two pages are going to be my social media growth tracker and a Tombow swatcher. The social media growth is something that's kind of specific to what I do, but you could feel free to track this, track anything on this. For example, if you wanted to track weight, or anything really that can be quantified. My goals are to reach 2,500 followers on Instagram and YouTube. So, shameless plug to hit the subscribe button if you really like my realistic 2023 yearly setup for my bullet journal, and my Instagram, where I will post photos from my setups, but also I do a lot of ASMR scrapbooking there, and people really seem to enjoy that. So I'm adding in the months at the bottom, January through December, and then on the y-axis, I'm adding in the different intervals for where I want. And then I'm using that same Pilot G2 gel pen to add in those axes and separate the months at the bottom. When I was writing the numbers on the y-axis for me to keep track of, I accidentally made a mistake, and I wanted to leave this in here so you could see that mistakes happen and it's not the end of the world. And if you want to, you can cover it up just like I'm doing here. So, and I did it in a way where I feel like it fits the aesthetic of the bullet journals. So it's kind of like a scrapbook style where I'm writing the different numbers and intervals, and then I'm going to just paste them over top of my mistake. And then that way it does kind of go over into the first couple months, but honestly, it's not like I'm going to be, not starting up at the top. So it's not going to be too much of a problem. So I'm just pasting these in over top, and I want you to feel encouraged that if you do make a mistake in your bullet journal, it's not the end of the world. You can take a step back and think, of maybe a creative way to keep going with your bullet journal. My plan for achieving some of my social media growth videos are to share videos of setting up monthly spreads, just like how you maybe have other bullet journal YouTubers that you follow, and also maybe posting full-length videos of my ASMR scrapbooking videos that I post on Instagram. The right side here, I'm setting up my Tombow swatcher. This was one of my most exciting things I was most excited to do, because I got a lot of these Tombows on sale from Michael's. They were having a sale, so I was really excited to put them down on paper, and these are just the ones that I got. I started off with, I got 3 different packs. It was a grayscale, a landscape, and a skin tones. I think it was the lighter of the skin tones pack. And here I'm just swiping them across, and with the marker side, I am writing the number that's on the side. So, I might get more throughout the year, but these are the ones that I will be starting off with and using in a lot of my earlier spreads. And I just like having this because I can reference them easier, and I can see what all the colors that I have and be able to find them in my little marker case / pencil cap pouch that I have. As I was creating this Tombow swatcher, I was realizing that I have, I think, a lot of niche colors. I probably would have been better off maybe grabbing one of those primary packs. But if there's a color that you think that I necessarily need, like it's necessity for me to have, please comment down below which one it is. I can always just walk into the Michaels and pick up, a specific pen. Hopefully they have it in stock. Or if there's a pack that you recommend, I'll link below the ones that I have now from the to the Tombow website, but I did buy mine from Michaels. So if you have any Tombow pens that you recommend, feel free to let me know if I need to add them into my collection. I might have to make a part 2 of the swatcher, but really looking forward to using these throughout the year. I'm wrapping up this spread by kind of boxing in those lines with my Pilot G7 to really kind of, distinguish where the swatch begins and ends. It's not necessary. Probably could have just left it out, but it made my brain feel happy. I'm going in here now to erase some of those lines and those notes that I made for myself, and moving on to my next spread. The spread that I'm working on the left is a then and now. I actually saw Joshi Corin I hope I'm saying that right. Joshi Corin post that on her YouTube channel, and it's basically a way to create a time capsule of your interests when you first start your bullet journal and by the time that you finish the bullet journal. There were a couple categories that she had put in her video that I really liked, and I'd never seen this before, and I thought it would be fun to kind of keep track of certain things. So the ones that I picked were my favorite show, my favorite song, food, book, word, accomplished, savings, hope, subscribers, color, a goal, and a place. So I wanted to make sure I had a place to document those for the beginning of this journal. I think one of the things I was realizing at this point was my vision of the scrapbooking theme kind of got lost in the couple pages and couple spreads that I had done. So I wanted to make sure that I brought that back into the journal and wasn't, completely forgotten about. So I'm adding a bit of, ripped dotted paper over there on the left, bottom left. On the right side, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to add here. I ended up ripping out a page from a lined notebook that I had and decided to just make it a catch-all, maybe a brain dump page or just a random place to take notes. Oftentimes I usually don't flip to those back pages of journals that exist for this purpose, and thought it might be a good place to turn to at the beginning of the journal to write down, anything if I'm on the phone with somebody and I have to jot something down. So I just go ahead and push this in there, and I add a header with that same Tombow dual brush pen that I've been using for headers throughout the video. And it's kind of hard because I accidentally ripped the page a little too high, but I make it work. And then with the black Tombow dual brush pen, ooh, that's a mouthful, I just write on that note. Instead of, labeling this page what it is, I thought I'd do something kind of clever there to really kind of, drive home that I should be writing something here on this page. Again, I'm remembering my overarching theme of the scrapbooking travel-esque vibes, adding in more of that little dotted notebook paper. I also have this this little tiny booklet of words in sort of like an alphabetical order. So I liked to stick to the theme of traveling, and I picked this one that has discover, and it's a word, and it has whatever, it's a verb or a noun, and it also has a little bit of a definition, and I stuck another bird stamp on there. This next 4 pages, they're actually 2 spreads, a memory spread. I'm sure that you've seen other bullet journal YouTubers with these spreads, but I really liked the idea, and I actually got a Polaroid camera a couple years ago from my husband, actually before we got married, when we were dating, and they create the perfect size to fit in this spread. So I ended up putting those headers there. It's a memory at the top, and I put in with I just used my Polaroid to make little arrows here, and I'm using the brush side of the Tombow to kind of put those little picture holder tabs in the top for a little note on where I should be placing my Polaroids. And with the setup that I have now, I'm able to fit 3 per page. And I just have in pencil the months where I could put them in. So the left side is January through March, and then the right side is April, May, June. And then on the second page, it's the rest of the year, July through September and October through November. And I really liked the way that this page turned out, and I think I'm going to love it even more once I start getting photos in there. I went and refilled my Polaroid film just for this spread, so I'm really excited to pop some photos in here and then be able to look back at the end of the year and see, all of the things that I did. So here in part 2 of my memories spread, I'm just repeating the same thing I did on the first spread, and adding in those different markers for where my Polaroids are going to go, adding my header, and just using those same Tombow colors to stick with the theme. And I'd love to know if you have any fun plans this year. I don't have my whole year planned out, but I know I'm going to do a lot of really cool things in the beginning of the year. And this journal is going to be helping me plan for a major life transition in the better part of the second half of the year. So maybe if you can figure out what that is, maybe I'll make this journal a hint towards what that will be, and I'll announce it when it's time. But yeah, I can't wait to see this completed and full spread. Here I'm just going in with my big stick eraser and removing those pencil marks that I had set for a guideline, and going back through and adding in those scrapbooking journal elements. Honestly, if we got $1 for every time I use this dotted paper, it'd be weird. We'd only have maybe like $2 or $3, but at least, I can say I was consistent. And I just really love the elements of these stamps. It just reminds me of, back in the day when postcards used to be a thing. So I added it on the left side of the first part of the spread, and here I'm adding in the detail on the right side of the second part of the spread. And the theme of my stamps is actually birds. So if you go back and look at those other stamps I added, there's like swans and penguins, and really just like that idea of keeping with like traveling and flight. Here I started writing my name in the beginning, hated it, and decided I'm just do what I always do. I'm gonna cover it over. And again, I think that this ended up looking way better. I thought that if I did my name at the end, it wouldn't be as scary, if you will, but I still ended up not liking it when I did it the first time around. But have no fear, that's where all of these amazing stickers and paper come into play. So I was able to kind of paste in some aged paper and some lined paper and try again, and I added my name there. And with that, here's a flip through of my 2023 bullet journal. If you stuck around this long, I really appreciate you watching. This is a new kind of video for me, and I'm really excited to show you a sort of, I don't know, realistic setup of a bullet journal that's not, completely aesthetic. Let me know what your favorite page is in the comments, and I look forward to showing you the rest of my videos for the year. And with that, I end my first ever bullet journal video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.